Welcome back to the TwinSpires Jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully and Darin Zoccali to talk our best bets and fades of the week at tracks all over the country. We have 4 Kentucky Derby prep races, 3 Oaks prep races as well. And last week we didn't have any prep action, but we had the Pegasus World Cup. And James, you correctly touted National Treasure. Darin and James both had Didia in the Pegasus World Cup Filly and Mare Turf. So congrats on those wins there. And James, since you were extra hot last week, I'll let you start things off. What's your best bet of the week?
Well, thank you very much, Ashley. Yeah, Tumbarumba was my best bet last week, came through for me at 8-1. And I'm going to go with another horse that's 8-1 on the morning line. My best bet of the week is number 6, Liberal Arts in the Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn Park. And I expect a favorable setup for this Arrogate Colt. To me, Liberal Arts last year, big, gangly type that really sort of put it together in a sense in his final juvenile start, winning the Street Sense Stakes over a sloppy track, went last to first that day in a short field, one going away by 2 3/4 lengths. And his speed numbers are increasing, but I expect him to be even better at age 3. And what I like about his chances in the Southwest is the setup that he projects to receive, in my estimation. That race is loaded with speed, folks. And Carbone, this one totally cold for Asmussen. To me, he has got no way to go but on the front end. He's a speed merchant, has shown high speed in both starts. Winstock, who's shipping in off a win on the Los Alamitos for charity, has run 2 poor races rating, 2 wins going wire to wire. He's going to be hustling. Otto the Conqueror, Maycox Bay, even these long shots like Mystic Dan and Just Steel all do their best running on the front end. So I'm expecting a hot and or contested pace that's going to set up well for Liberal Arts. And I look for this great colt to continue to move forward as a 3-year-old for trainer Robert Medina. Who do you have as your best bet, Darin?
Yeah, I like the pick, James. I like them quite a lot. I'm actually just going to go to an allowance race at the fairgrounds because I have a price horse here that I like. Race 7, it's a turf sprint going the about 5.5 furlong distance. Number 7, True Jedi, I think is really interesting at 12-1. He's making his 3rd start back off the layoff, and I know the first couple of starts, they're just kind of mediocre. He finished in the middle of a pack of 2 races, good allowance groups, albeit at Turfway Park. The horse is better on turf, though, than he is on synthetic, and he's going back to turf here, and I think that's the key. If you take a look back at some of his earlier starts at Ellis Park and at Colonial, sprinting on the grass, he showed more speed than he did in the 2 synthetic races, certainly more interest at the end. Respect Chris Davis in a spot like this, who's 20% with horses making their 3rd start off the layoff in a 50-horse sample. Turns the services over to James Graham here, which I think is another vote of confidence. He's definitely sharpened up. He's been working extremely well. Most recently at Turfway Park, a 48-second flat work, which was the 3rd best out of 132 horses to work the distance on that day, January the 27th. I think he's going to get a good setup here to stalk and rate and pounce. I'm not a big fan of the favorites. I see speed to run down. So we're going to take a big swing here with a True Jedi in a good allowance, race 7 at the fairgrounds, Ashley, on Saturday.
It's a fun name. I will ask you, Doppler Darin. There's rain in the forecast here.
Yeah, it might rain. We'll have to wait and see. But I mean, the horse did have a decent run on the dirt at Keeneland. But if the race does stay on the grass, I thought at the price it was just too good to pass up and not mention on the show today.
Yeah, I like your reasoning. I'm going to go to an allowance as well, as 6 furlong allowance at Oaklawn, and I'm picking number 5 Kantex at 8-1 and race 7 for fillies and mares 4-year-old and up. And Kantex is a 5-year-old who drew post 5 just inside the morning line favorite Zeitlos for Steve Asmussen. Kantex is coming off a 3 1/4 length win in a restricted allowance, but that race had a 113 race rating, the same race rating that Zeitlos faced last out. But Kantex posted a 93 wrist nut speed figure. It's a point higher than what Zeitlos posted last out. And Kantex is a horse for the course here. 4 for 5 at Oaklawn, also a distance specialist, 4 for 4. And Randy Morse is winning at a 21% clip this meet. The top prime power figure also belongs to Kantex, 5 points higher than Zeitlos. So if you like Brisnet past performances and prime power numbers, gives me even more reason to feel confident with Kantex. And at 8-1, I feel like she's just a little bit slightly above Zeitlos here. So I'm taking a shot with that price.
I like it. You know, Tumbarumba last week was Louisiana bred running in a graded stake, and I picked him because I thought he was the fastest horse in the field. And That's the rationale with Kantex. He's an Arkansas bred. You get these state breds against open company. People will take a negative stance upon them. But I can look at Kantex's effort 2 starts back at Churchill Downs, where he ran second in that allowance race. That was a strong effort as well. He's moving forward. He has the top last out speed rating, and I like the play, Ashley.
Thank you, James. Kantex is a girl, though.
Oh, sorry.
All good. All good. It's hard to keep up sometimes. All right. Well, Darin, tell me what your fate is this week.
Yeah, in the Martha Washington Stakes, the Philly counterpart to the Southwest, race number 9, Saturday at Oaklawn, I'm going to try to beat Denim and Pearls, who's going to be an extremely short price here. And I admit, she obviously does look formidable on paper, but I just keep going back to watch that year's end stakes. I mean, she had absolutely no excuse to lose that race. She set a perfect trip off of 2 speed. She ranged up 3 wide. It was the short stretch at Oaklawn where they finish up at the 16th pole going the mile distance. And she just got collared that day by a horse that was under a hustling ride for about the last 3 furlongs of the race. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't mean she can't win here, but she's going to be like 3 to 5 against this group. And there's a couple of up and coming horses in Hush and Honey and In Good Taste that I'm particularly interested in. Hush and Honey cut back to a sprint last time out for Randy Morris and really ran well, opening up 4 lengths, geared down in the stretch. Now stretches back out around 2 turns, and I think might be improving at the right time. And In Good Taste, I thought was a really impressive maiden win, who battled down to the wire. Brad Cox trainee showed a lot of maturity in that spot to be able to win. Her debut effort was good too. You're going to get a good number on Cox here as well. So I'm going to take a shot against Denim and Pearls in race number 9, the Martha Washington at Oaklawn Park, guys.
And once again, I think that her stablemate In Good Taste, you reference it. I thought that was a really strong maiden win. I like a hard race like that between 2 good horses. The filly she beat in there came back and won her next start by 5.5 lengths as the favorite. So that was a fast effort by In Good Taste, and I think she's got a good chance.
James, you've got an interesting fade too over at Oaklawn.
I do. Number 8, Scully, and the King Cotton Stakes. That's race 8 at Oaklawn Park on Saturday. And, you know, Scully has won 6 straight. So, I mean, you got to respect his form. He's 5 for 7 at Oaklawn Park. He won the Count Fleet Stakes last year. But the fact of the matter is, I think the best sprinter in Hot Springs, Arkansas, one of the best potential sprinters coming forward out of the Midwest this year is Tahano Twist. Tahano Twist was running against Scully last year. He's improved since then. His effort in the Bet on Sunshine Stakes at Churchill Downs 2 back, I loved it. I loved his win in that New Year's Stakes race that he won at Oaklawn, or New Year's Eve Stakes, or the Ring the Bell Stakes, I guess it was. And Chris Hartman, who trains Skelly's main rival, Tahano Twist, has entered Excess Magic. This is a turf sprinter, can run 21 and change, has claimed that horse and entered him in this race to keep Scully on the company on the front end and ensure a favorable setup for Tahano Twist. So I'm going to fade Scully, not use them in any wagers in the King Cotton Stakes at Oaklawn on Saturday. Ashley.
I actually almost faded him as well for the exact same reasons. I thought that the entry of Excess Magic made this really, really interesting. And I really do like Tahano Twist quite a bit as well. If he gets the setup that I think he might with that speed. And Jackson Traveler does his best running as well when he goes forward. So I do think the pace is going to be pretty lively here. I respect him just like James does, but I thought this was a good horse to fade as well.
The track bias is setting up for late pressers and closers as well. And if you look at Tahano Twist, he's also 3 for 5 at Oaklawn and 6 for 12 at the distance. So I think you picked a good one. Miles Ahead has a big % speed figure last out as well and is a late presser type. But I think you're right with Tahano Twist being the horse here. And I don't know if you'll get 4 to 1, but still, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, maybe too much of a discrepancy on the morning line there.
Well, I'm going to take it to the Southwest at Oaklawn, and I'm fading the morning line favorite, as you are too, James. I'm fading Maycox Bay at 3 to 1. The Spacetown Colt just won by 10 lengths at Fairgrounds and a 1 mile, 70-yard allowance optional claimer. Prior to that, as a 2-year-old, 1 for 4 with a lone win coming at 6.5 furlongs, and his speed figures really dropped. The next 2 races, finished 6th in both of those races. First time facing stakes company at Keeneland as well, racing at 6 furlongs, finished a distance 6th. And he had a 111 race rating last out, faced a much lighter field compared to Auto the Conqueror, who won the Springboard Mile, win stock. And then, the other horses you mentioned as well, Liberal Arts, coming off that Street Sense win. So I don't really like anything about Maycox Bay here. I'm going to fade this runner, and I kind of am leaning toward Auto the Conqueror as another option here, because he's shown he can either go gate to wire or sit right off the pace and win. So I like him too as one of the earlier runners in this field.
Not to make you worry about it being a bad fade. I don't think he's going off favored. I think it's a poor morning line. Steve Asmussen, with a horse that's run a hole in the wind twice, I think is going to take more money than him, and you wouldn't be surprised to see win stock off the Low South Futurity take money as well. I'm not saying he's not going to get bet, but there are a lot of sharp people that are going to say, okay, well, he did win by 10 last time, but it was an off the turf event. So how good was that field that he beat? And now he's facing some proven commodities around 2 turns that have put up some big speed figures. I'm not sure he's going to be that short, but I could be wrong. But if he is 3-1, he's a dead set play against as well for me.
And I'll say both of his wins, last time he was clear early, but even in his maiden win, he's gets up and gets a comfortable rhythm going. No way he's getting that same trip with all the speed in the Southwest field.
Yeah, I was surprised he was the morning line favorite. I will say too, there's rain in the forecast at Oaklawn, and he did win on a sloppy track at 6.5 furlongs, but Auto the Conqueror 2 for 2 on an off track. So again, I just don't understand where Maycox Bay got the morning line favorite here, but yeah, I think you're right, Darin.
I think Carbone will be favored, like Darin said.
Yeah. All right, well, before we move on to what else is happening this week, Darin, what TwinSpires promos do we have going on?
Yeah, we've got a lot of exciting stuff this week. The winter money back rolls on. It's going to include races Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So be sure to be opted in. Saturday, of course, features a couple of races at Oaklawn, the Martha Washington, and the Southwest Stakes. So get involved there. Enhance your Derby prep experience with the winter money back offer. And we have 2 brand new promos starting up this week. A $2,500 hit it and split it, playing the late pick 5, and that's going to be every Friday at Turfway Park. So $2,500 each Friday in the month of February will be split amongst the players that are opted in and successfully hit the late pick 5 at Turfway. And we have a $2,000 Fairgrounds hit it and split it on their late pick 5. That's going to take place every Saturday in February. And we're going to throw in Tuesday, February the 13th, Fat Tuesday, for good measure as well. So a couple of hit it and split it's on some of our key tracks. The winter money back rolling on. As always, plenty for everybody, Ashley.
Sounds good. And James, I'll send it back to you. Tell us what you're looking forward to this weekend.
Well, we have 4 Road to the Kentucky Derby series qualifiers this weekend. One of them is the 1 1/8 Grade 3 Withers at Aqueduct. And this race marks the stakes debut for Speedrunner, number 1 Speedrunner. He is exiting a maiden win, going a 1 1/8 trip in his second start, first 2-turn attempt on December 8th. And I really like that win. I thought the runner-up in that race, Marla Chuck, was bet down about 7-5 in that event for Chad Brown off of a second to a really nice maiden winner. And I still think Marla Chuck could be a nice horse for Brown moving forward. But like I referenced earlier, I think these promising types, they get a lot more out of hard-fought wins early in their career than they do off of easy victories. I really love the positional speed that Speedrunner showed in that race, and he won't necessarily be on the lead in the Withers, but he won't be way far back either. And I think he's going to run a big race for Todd Pletcher, who is absolutely loaded presently for the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby this spring. I don't think Speedrunner will be favored either. I think Lightline will take that role come post time. And I like Speedrunner in the Withers, Darin.
Yep, don't blame you. I don't necessarily think the competition is that fierce, and I like the last effort. So I definitely think he's a horse to pay close attention to. There's another Derby prep at Gulfstream, of course. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner is returning in the Holy Bull Stakes. Shout out to Holy Bull, my favorite horse of all time, one of the coolest horses. And if you're a horse player who has not seen a lot of his races, go back and watch Holy Bull's Met Mile, his Travers, his Woodward. It's the stuff of legend. Really one of the coolest horses of all time. But there is a potential Derby prep on the Gulfstream card that doesn't have a name. And it's race 6. It's a straight up entry-level allowance race. You have 3 horses lining up next to each other in Ari's Magic, Born Noble, and Merit. All 3 have won their debuts They won by a combined 20 lengths. And all three of these horses went into their debuts with plenty of buzz. Ari's Magic was a $725,000 two-year-old in training purchase. Born Noble has a pedigree that's the stuff of dreams. I believe the third dam in there is Silver Bullet Day. You go all the way back and you see Arts and Letters in there, just a really cool throwback pedigree. He had a ton of hype going into his debut for Todd Pletcher and certainly lived up to it. And just to his outside is Merit, who won by 10 lengths at Gulfstream Park in an absolute tour de force, showing an unbelievable turn of foot on the far turn for Saffie Joseph. So this race is definitely producing a horse that we're going to see in a Kentucky Derby prep next. You might have even seen two of these, not Born Noble, because Fierceness goes out for Todd Pletcher. Wouldn't have surprised me if Ari's Magic and Merit might have taken a shot in the Holy Bull today if Fierceness wasn't in the race. So I think this is an extremely interesting allowance, one of the more compelling races that we've seen at Gulfstream. And I'm excited to see who rises to the occasion out of these three guys.
Yeah, I really liked Ari's Magic's debut and the pedigree there too. Good Magic Colt, so Mage connection there. And then Pioneer of the Nile mare. So American Pharaoh, Pioneer of the Nile. Gotta like that pedigree.
I'm excited to see Born Noble run, and he's the type of colt that if he runs a big race and gets a big number, he could go to a race like the Rebel or maybe the Tampa Bay Derby. And if you don't have any heavy hitters like Fierceness or locked in that race, he could be favored if he runs a big race in that allowance. Like Darin said, he has a lot of buzz, looks super talented to me.
Yeah, I think if Fierceness was not in the Holy Bull, if Born Noble was Todd Pletcher's Holy Bull horse, I think he'd be favored in the Holy Bull.
Yeah.
Like that's how good his debut was. And yeah, I mean, not only that, I mean, take a look. I mean, he closed at 41-1 in the third pool of the Kentucky Derby future wager, which was, I guess kind of middle of the pack, but more towards the front than the back, certainly in terms of the money that was spread out on some of these horses.
And some
on
people
top,
betting him.
yeah, for sure. And Merit was in there as well, and Ari's Magic. So you have three horses in an allowance race that were all offered as individual wagering options in the third pool of the Kentucky Derby future wager. So you're not going to get a more stacked allowance race than this.
Well, you already mentioned it a little bit with Fierceness. He is the Derby points leader at the moment and also the individual choice favorite in the Kentucky Derby future wager. He'll be making his 3-year-old debut in the Holy Bull, and I think 3 to 5 on the morning line. It really is his race to lose. Not really sure if I give Otello a chance here. He won the Mucho Macho Man at Gulfstream, so at least we've got that on his resume. But yeah, I think Fierceness probably has this. But if he doesn't win this, then I guess you have to go back to that question of, is this horse just not consistent? Because he has that 7th in the Champagne, which made everyone kind of back off before the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So I'm very interested to see how he performs in this race. We also have another prep over at Santa Anita. We've got 3 Bob Baffert runners. You've got the $1.7 million purchase in Coach Prime. Gotta love that name. I'm kind of a Coach Prime fan. And then you've got Wind Me Up by Vino Rosso and Nisos, who I think will be the morning line favorite here. But we've got a debut maiden winner in Scatify, trying to take a shot here. Stakes Play Stronghold. I don't know, though. I think we're probably going to get a Baffert runner win this one. What do y'all think?
It was a nice win by that Justified colt. Drew outside.
Yeah.
It's a good post. You know, you got the horse that ran second in Los Alamitos Futurity in there as well. But you know, it's really like everybody's wanting to see how nice those runs stretching to 2 turns, because he broke his maiden by 10 and then he won the Bob Hope by about 9. So we'll see whether or not he's a 2-turn type or not.
Yeah, I will say that as we sit here on February the 1st, from what I'm seeing from this 3-year-old crop in general, I think they are much better than the 3-year-old crop as a whole from what I saw last year. The speed figures speak to that point. Speakeasy ran a Ragozin figure of 7 1/4 in his maiden win, where Victory Avenue for the Mage Connections ran second. And in that same maiden race last year was the maiden race of Mage, and he ran an 11. Forte going into the Florida Derby never ran faster than like an 8 1/4, 8 1/2. And you already have some of these 3-year-olds that are already faster than that at this point of their career. So I'm not saying it's a superstar crop, but I think it's a much stronger crop from top to bottom than what we saw at this point last year.
Yeah, and Fierceness got a 112 speed
Yeah.
rating for winning, Bristnet speed rating for winning that juvenile. That's a huge number, Ashley and Darin.
Monsters.
So
Yeah.
that's really the gauge, is how he looks in that race. I don't think he's losing, but it's really important to see how he looks, in victory if he does win.
I would say for the purposes of it being the first weekend of February, I think you're going to get a lot more clarity on where some of these 3-year-olds are and what's to come earlier in the year than normal, because you got a lot of potential standouts running on the same day.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's way more exciting. Last year we had Forte, kind of all along the trail. And then of course you scratched. So we didn't really get to see what would happen in the Derby. And then
But even Forte
weird.
came, but people were saying, well, is he really that fast? A lot of people coming out of the Breeders' Cup like the horse that ran second in the prep at Keeneland more than they liked Forte, who ended up getting hurt. So there, even like last year with Forte, there was a lot of questions of, well, how good actually is he? This particular weekend has a lot of horses that have run holes in the wind, where any one of them could be, something really special.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's all the time we have today for the jury. Real quick, we also have 3 Oaks preps this week in the Martha Washington at Oaklawn, Grade 3 Forward Gal at Aqueduct, and then the Las Virgenes at Santa Anita on Sunday. So check that out. Head to TwinSpires for those promos Darin mentioned, and we'll be back next Thursday with more best bets and fades.